the green giant's penis with genital warts. I was in quite a pickle. This was not an STD demonstration gone wrong, nor a job where I fulfilled people's kinky fantasies. No, I entertained the masses as Gedney the Minnesota Pickle. Dressed in a giant, bumpy, dong-shaped, puke green foam pickle suit. A little background information. Gedney Foods is the only pickle manufacturer in Minnesota. Sometime in the early 90s, a go-getter PR woman named Rhonda created the character of Gedney the Minnesota Pickle to promote the brand across the state. Because almost every town in Minnesota holds a week-long festival each summer, mostly to celebrate making it through another long winter without killing each other. And every celebration has a parade, and every parade had a pickle. I first heard about pickling from my older sister's friend. Joe made $10 an hour from the moment he left his house to drive a few hours to a random town, then proceed to dance in a pickle suit, tell pickle jokes, and swelter in the hot summer sun. At 17, I made $3.50 an hour working fast food, and all I heard was $10 an hour. I thought Joe had the best job in the world. Joe was just flattered to have someone who envied instead of pitied him, and when they were looking for more pickles, he put in a good word. I was thrilled. And I immediately started counting my future fortune. But first, I had to audition for the job. It was a two-step process. First, we pretend to be the pickle without the suit. What does the pickle say to an old lady, a little girl, a heckling teenager? If we were convincing enough, then and only then would we get to put on the suit and improvise pickle banter, dance, and most importantly, sing the Minnesota Pickle song. Oh yes, there was a song. It played on radio stations across the state with terrible lyrics and tone-deaf singers, which meant, of course, that no one could get the song out of their heads. And it went a little something like this. Gedney, it's Minnesota Pickle. Gedney, oh Gedney, it's Minnesota Pickle. They taste good, Gedney. It's an ordinary pickle. You betcha, Gedney, it's Minnesota Pickle. When I went to the audition, I was easily the youngest person there by 5 years, and the only one without an acting resume, or any resume. So right before it began, I made a crucial decision. I didn't know anybody there. If I failed, I would never see any one of these people again. So I was going to act like an absolute idiot. Because money, money, money. I made up a loud, obnoxious pickle voice and dropped some of the gems they taught us, like, I'm as cool as a cucumber, and I'm relishing in the fun today. I danced the pickle polka with an old lady. I was the pickle. And this was all without the suit on. Once I put that phallic piece of foam on my body, I used the only thing I had going for me, teen spirit, and pickled my heart out. I creamed the competition. Though Rhonda was concerned I was just a teenager, she gave me the job. And then I told every single person I knew that I was going to be Gedney the Minnesota Pickle that summer, which turned out to be a very fateful decision on my part. Because it turns out you don't just jump into pickling, you train for it. Pickle training started with cheesy team-building exercises, even though it was a solo gig and I would never see these people again. We traveled to the Gedney pickle plant, where I almost fell asleep on the tour. Finally, we freakishly practiced being the pickle without the suit in a public park. Through it all, I was sullen, bored, and generally a pain in the ass. Basically, your average teenager, because I didn't need this. Didn't Rhonda remember how I nailed the audition? What the fuck? When I got home, Rhonda called and fired my ass. I was devastated. All that money down the drain. But even worse, as I mentioned, I had bragged to everyone I knew that I was going to be Gedney. At this point, I was too embarrassed not to be the pickle. And I do realize the irony of this statement. There was nothing to do but grovel. I called up Rhonda, lied about going through a tough emotional thing that day, and pleaded for a second chance. Shockingly, it worked. She said I could stay, but that I would be put on pickle probation. Anytime I pickled in a parade, someone would be somewhere in that crowd, analyzing my performance and watching my every move. The first mistake I made, I was out. I didn't care. I was back in the game, ready to make bank. As soon as I started the job, however, the pickle paranoia set in. During every parade, all I could think about was the pickle police lurking out there, just waiting to catch me infracting a rule. Because there was, of course, the pickle protocol. Rule number 1, no sitting, smoking, swearing, or eating in the suit. Rule number 2, no one may ever see you get in or out of the suit. Rule number 3, once you are in the suit, you are Gedney. You may never, ever break character. Rule number 4, you must walk the entire parade route. You may not ride on a float. Rule number 5, have fun! My job was on the line, so I had to follow the rules to a T. Except for having fun. Fuck that, I was in it for the money. So at each parade, I would park a block away from the parade lineup until I saw the float start to move. Then I'd dive into the opening of the pickle lying in the back seat. I emerged from the car, transformed into Gedney, and hauled ass to the parade line, where for the next 2 hours, I danced behind marching bands, hugged kids, posed for pictures with drunk teenagers who pretended to hump me, and sang the pickle song over and over and over. I never once broke character, even during my hometown's parade where my parents, cousins, and grandparents were in the crowd. I think Grandma thought I was on drugs. After the parades were over, however, I tackled the biggest occupational hazard of the job, getting back to my car. You see, parades start at point A, wind a mile or two through unfamiliar streets, and end at point B. I couldn't even find my way home, let alone walking another 2 miles in the pickle. So I had to find someone who had a float full of people who had left their cars back at the beginning of the parade route. You know, like the clowns, except I hated clowns. Clowns are creepy, so anyone but them. And I had to stay in character, lest I accidentally ask a member of the pickle police by mistake. After my first parade, I approached some normal-looking folks sitting on their flatbed truck. I told them I was in quite a pickle, and could they help me get back to my car? Sure, no problem, the guy said. Dude, is it hot in that thing? Nope, I replied in my pickle voice. I'm as cool as a cucumber. No, seriously, are you totally dying in that suit? What suit? When you're full of brine, everything's fine. The guy looked at me oddly. His friend whispered to him. He nodded. You know, we have to pick up some very large equipment on our way back. We don't have room. Obviously, they thought I was a psycho who might murder them. And who could blame them? Oh, I said. I was betting they were not the pickle police, and maybe I could have talked like a normal person. But just in case. That's okay! I'll just walk back! Hope you relish! I ended up getting a ride back with the clowns. Every single parade. Because, of course, they are the only other people at the parade who never break character and thought nothing of the fact that I didn't either. I have, of course, since developed a newfound respect for clowns. A month into pickling, I rocked that pickle. But I was still on pickle probation. I got assigned the crappiest parades at the worst times, and Rhonda constantly interrogated me to make sure I hadn't behaved inappropriately. It was suffocating, and I wore a pickle suit for a living. One of my worst parades was Blaine's blazing 4th of July. It had been rained out and pushed to July 6th, which meant that half the floats canceled, and the crowd was lackluster, no matter what pickle antics I had up my sleeve. Afterwards, Rhonda called. This was it. I was getting canned. Actually, forgive the pun, jarred. You did the Blaine's blazing 4th, right? Rhonda asked. It was a tough crowd, Rhonda, I replied. I am so sorry. Well, Someone was watching you, she said. Oh God, here it was. Because you won a trophy for most unique float! Rhonda was over the moon. No pickle had ever won a trophy before, or after. Pickle probation was over. After that, I won the honor of handing out penis-shaped pickle hats at Twins baseball games. I earned the coveted spot in the state fair parade, and when Rhonda needed a pickle to do a promotional photo shoot, I was the one she chose. And the next 3 summers, I was the state fair winning, prize winning pickle, warts and all.